Episode 2 of Sports Talk on Elm Street for this semester. Let's look at the camera. Look at the camera. Look at it. We know where the camera is now because last week.
Well, okay. To be clear, I knew where the camera was. I think you.
I didn't know where the camera was. I didn't know where the camera was. I didn't know where the camera was. I was looking at a speaker when I went to the wide shot at the end of the show.
He was
last week.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the speaker because I'm
high camera.
High camera. I was like, the camera's over there, bro. Yeah. The camera's over there. But we're back for our second episode, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
We have a lot.
We do have a lot to talk about. First, do you want to talk about some a little bit of college football?
I would love to talk about some college football. A little week 2 recap. Are we thinking?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't the greatest of college football weeks, I don't think you would say.
I agree.
There were some good games, though. I think I'll let you go first. What stands out to you? What was the game that stood out to you? I mean, obviously one game in particular was very exciting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
But
I want to talk about, is this maybe a little, let's talk about, I know which game you're thinking of.
I'm thinking of Texas and Alabama.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that second. I want to talk about Oregon against Texas Tech.
Okay, yeah.
Now, listen. So this Texas Tech team is a lot better than their 0-2 start indicates.
I would agree.
I think they're still considered a sleeper in the Big 12. They should take care of business this week against, I think it's Tarleton State or something.
Yeah, they're going to
They should take care of business. I believe they're at home. But I want to take a look at the Red Raiders game against Oregon, a really good Oregon team, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was Texas Tech for a little bit there in the third. They were up by as much as 9 points. They had a 27-18 lead about halfway through the third quarter. And at that point, I thought that they had all the momentum at that point, and I thought they were going to ride that towards a win. But as quarterback Bo Nix in Oregon proved, that was not the case. It was really, it was great. It was back and forth. I mean, the entire fourth quarter, both teams put up a tremendous amount of points, and I think this game was. I don't know if either quarterback played like. I don't know if
I was looking at Tyler Shaw's 3 interceptions.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at in a 64.3 QBR. That's not a good game, but like at the same time, Bo Nix, he threw for 2 touchdowns, no picks, and yet he only had a 78.0 QBR, which is obviously better than Shucks, but still, I feel like that's like at least somewhat indicative of how the two quarterbacks really played. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think Nix obviously played better. I think you would agree because he did not turn the ball over. And that ultimately for Texas Tech was how they were shooting themselves in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Shuck throwing 3 interceptions. I thought he would play a lot better against his former team at home. There would be a kind of a revenge factor of sorts a little bit.
Yeah.
But
to be fair, 2 of those interceptions were very late in the game.
Yeah.
In like a
one of them was like a Hail Mary, right?
One of them at the end of the game was the Hail Mary, but at the same time, turning the ball over three times, all in the second half. I think every single interception was thrown in the second half.
Yeah.
That's just that's not great, and that's not a recipe to win football games.
No, it's not. It doesn't help your team win games.
Yeah.
And you can't be making those stupid mistakes that late in the game at such a crucial point in the game. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So Oregon with this win improves to 2-0, and Texas Tech falls to 0-2. So Quinn, how worried should we be? I know I said I think Texas Tech should still be considered a sleeper in the Big 12, despite the fact that they're 0-2. I still think that holds true.
Yeah.
How worried are you? That being said, 0-2 is not how you want to start the season, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
How worried are you about this Red Raider team going forward?
Well, okay. Well, that's interesting because going into the season, I know Texas Tech they were ranked, correct?
No,
they were not ranked.
They were like barely outside the AP
outside the AP pool. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have high hopes on the team going in. I don't think they're a team that's going to be challenging in the Big 12 for a Big 12 championship.
Not this year, at least.
This year, at least. Obviously, in the past, they've had good teams, great teams.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't I don't think it's room for concern. I do think they'll still make it out. Probably make a bowl game as well.
I think they'll make at least a relatively good
good bowl game. I mean, looking at their schedule, they have Tarleton State, which is a win. I mean,
should be an easy win.
Basically, a scheduled win right there. West Virginia, a team that hasn't looked great so far this year. And I mean, they held Oregon close, and Oregon looked fantastic.
Oregon, I think, is...
People were talking about Bo Nix. Obviously, Oregon played Portland State, so it wasn't like the greatest opponent, but they put up 81 points, and people were like, Bo Nix is a Heisman candidate.
Listen, I think putting up... I don't really care who your opponent is. Putting up 81 points in a game is a difficult thing to do.
Of course, yeah, of course. And so I'm not too concerned about Texas Tech. I was surprised they held Oregon that close. I didn't think it was going to be that close of a game. I mean, maybe that was an oversight on me because I don't think Wyoming is necessarily a terrible school for football.
No, I don't think so.
Obviously,
I don't think so either.
Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Josh Allen?
No, Josh Allen. I can't think of anybody else.
I can't think of anyone else, but obviously they're a school that has had some football prowess in the past. So going into a double overtime game, it was kind of a nail biter, and it was at Wyoming.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you play at home against a ranked Oregon team, one of the probably top two teams in the Big 12, top three, right? Maybe top three teams in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Pac-12.
Pac-12.
May they rest in peace, I guess. But I'm not too concerned for Texas Tech. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll bounce back and make a bowl game.
And keep in mind for the Wyoming game, they were, like you said, like you alluded to, they were playing at Wyoming. And that crowd, I watched that game basically in its entirety. That crowd was so loud, so raucous, and you could see it. It really affected the Red Raiders, especially in the second half of that game. But I agree with you. I don't think we should be terribly concerned about Texas Tech, but... I think this upcoming week against Tarleton State, that should be a win. But at a certain point, the Red Raiders need to start getting some wins over some quality opponents. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. So now let's go. So now that we've talked about that, let's talk about how about Texas and Alabama. For both of these teams, this is really interesting. This was very interesting for the long-term prospects of both of these teams. Because, so my first question for you is... Texas, what stood out to you from that game, and can you safely assume that they are, quote-unquote, back?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll say it. I'll say Texas is back. I mean, I know
Longhorn Nation, we're back.
We are. Hey, what is it? Is it?
That's what he did in the Sugar Bowl.
Okay.
I'm referencing something very specific.
Okay, it was a specific reference. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It was Sam Ehlinger. You know who Sam Ehlinger is, right?
Yeah.
It was back in a few years ago after the Longhorns won the Sugar Bowl, and he looks at the camera and just goes, "Longhorn Nation, we're back."
And I'm gonna assume that Texas didn't even win the Big 12 the next year.
No, they did not win the Big 12 the next year.
That was Oklahoma, I believe.
It was. Yeah.
So
that's what I was referencing.
I'll say Texas is back. What stood out to me is me being upset that Quinn Ewers is no longer an Ohio State Buckeye. That was the thing that stood out to me. I was like, man, I really wish we still had this guy.
And he's doing this well for the Longhorns. And it's
Yeah. Do you have his QBR? I don't have his QBR in hand. But I do know that he was 24 for 38, which isn't like a passing or a completion rating that you're gonna like stand out and be like, oh my gosh, what a great completion percentage.
It doesn't like jump off the page.
But some of the throws he was making that game, I sent you a text during the game.
Yeah.
I said, Joe, Quinn Ewers is throwing dimes.
I mean, he
is throwing dimes. He was just laying it in the breadbasket, and it was beautiful. So some of those throws, I mean, obviously Quinn Ewers is the reason Texas won that game.
Oh yeah,
without a doubt.
Quinn
Ewers is the reason that team.
And so Ewers' official stats from that game, he went 24 for 38 with 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and an 89.4 QBR. I don't know if you'd say like that's a flawless performance, but that's pretty dang close to it in my opinion.
And I mean, the biggest thing that stood out to me, and I mean, we always talk. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
we do a wide cam. We need to show what just happened. This just fell down for anyone wondering what that noise was. It just went down the slide, and that was scary for all of us.
That was very weird for all of us.
What stood out to me.
We can just edit that out.
Yeah,
I guess.
we'll edit it out. A cliche for me that it stands out and people always talk about is the turnover battle. Texas did not turn the ball over, and I think that's why they won that game. I think if Texas turns the ball over, when you're playing a team like Alabama, obviously you can't turn the ball over.
You cannot turn the ball over.
They're so good that they will capitalize off your mistakes. They will use that momentum and they will just run with it. Obviously, it was in Alabama,
And with a coach like Nick Saban and that staff, it is like it. I don't want to say it's a given because nothing is a given in this game, but it's almost a given that Nick Saban is going to find a way to capitalize off of the opponent's mistakes.
Yeah. I think the other thing I want to talk about in this game, and I'll get your opinion on it, is what stood out to me on the other side of the ball. Jalen Milroe, rather. I know we talked about it week 1, which we didn't mention that. We'll talk about that in a second at the end.
Well, there will be a Bama week 1.
So we were talking about Jalen Milroe last episode, and we were saying, like, we think he's going to be good. We think he's underrated. And he comes out and has an absolute stinker of a performance.
We were kind of wrong on that, maybe. We were maybe wrong. Okay.
Thoughts on that?
I don't think, I've been seeing this whole thing going around about, you should bench him. You should give, I don't know who the Crimson Tide's backup is off the top of my head.
I think it's Tyler Buckner.
Yeah, Tyler Buckner. There you go. Yeah. That's nice. Tyler Buckner. As I've been seeing this thing going around, like, you should sit him. You should see what you've got in Tyler Buckner. I don't think you go there yet because Milroe, I don't want to bash on him. He made some nice plays with his arm and his legs. Keep in mind, he threw 2 touchdowns. He went over 250 yards passing, 255. At the same time, those 2 interceptions were not good throws, obviously. And Texas is a great football team, offensively, defensively. They're great on both sides of the ball. It's obviously not, I don't remember who Bama was playing last week. It was not, I think it was like...
It was a small school.
It was a small, I think maybe FC, not FC, I don't know about FCS school.
I got it. It was Middle Tennessee State.
Middle Tennessee State. I was like, I had that in my head for some reason. I was like, I think that's it. But they were playing Middle Tennessee State in week 1. And obviously, the Texas Longhorns are not Middle Tennessee State.
No, they're not.
And I think, I don't know if you give him a pass. I don't think you give him a pass. You tell him, hey, you stunk it up this game. Which is true. I don't think he played well. I think if he can rebound in week 3 against, I should probably know that. I don't remember who Bama is playing off the top of my head. I bet I can. South Florida.
Yeah.
So the Crimson Tide are playing South Florida. If Milroe can rebound with a big game against South Florida,
Alabama 33-point favorites, by the way, going into that. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you're a Crimson Tide fan, worrying about we're gonna have to have a tough rebound and we're not gonna do great. But you shouldn't. So
if you're a Crimson Tide fan, I don't think you should be worried about this week.
But I do think that this game is super, super important because if I'm looking ahead, I'm looking at the Bama schedule.
Yeah.
They play South Florida. Their next game, they go. It's at home at least, but they are playing Ole Miss, the number 17th ranked. I love their mascot. It's the is it Red Rebels?
The Rebels. I think it's just
the Rebels. It's just the Rebels.
But someone else is like the Runnin' Rebels. I think it's UNLV, I think.
But the Rebels is sick. I love that. That's awesome.
It's pretty sick.
But anyways, so they play that game. That game stands out to me because after that, they don't have a single ranked matchup on the schedule right now until October 21st, and then they play back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Tennessee bye week, which is super important for them. LSU, so that's going to be probably what stands out to me as the hardest part of their schedule. So if Alabama can get out of South Florida with some momentum, build up Jalen Milroe, make sure he's fine. If they go into Ole Miss and they win that game, then I'm a lot more confident about this Alabama team and their chances of making the playoffs. If they struggle in South Florida, obviously they're not going to lose, but if they struggle and then Ole Miss, they lose that game, then that could obviously ruin their playoff chances. A 2-loss team is likely not going to make it to the playoffs. It's very rare.
No, I don't see a 2-loss team making the playoffs, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, so I just think Alabama needs to build their momentum up, get their offense, their defense set, and get that momentum going higher and higher so that when they get to October 21st and they play Tennessee and they play LSU, that's going to be, they should be at their peak of the season right then.
I'm taking a look at the schedule right now. Something that jumps out to me is the 2 consecutive road games they have against Mississippi State and Texas A&M right after that Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
That one of those games, or if I'm being frank, both of them, to be honest with you, they could very well be, I guess, trap games, quote unquote. I say trap game. Both of those teams are like, they're not bad football teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the concept of like the trap game we use is like when, they could like, it's a really good team and they can like look past this opponent and maybe they lose. I feel like that's the definition of a trap game in today's day and age. I don't know if it applies here because I don't think Mississippi State and Texas A&M are bad football teams. In fact, I think they're actually pretty good. But that's just something to keep an eye on. Coming off what should be a really good game against the Rebels. The Rebels. I think the Crimson Tide need to, before they start paying attention to Tennessee and LSU, definitely look out for those two games, both on the road back-to-back weeks. And both of those environments in College Station and against Mississippi State are absolutely raucous. Hostile. Thank you. Very good word right there. Very good word. Yep. Thank you for that. But it's going to be very interesting to see how all that shakes out. So that was a little snippet of week 2. But tomorrow is where the action begins again. Week 3.
Once more.
Begins once more. Week 3 is upcoming in college football. And we've already had one game where Miami went out and absolutely smoked Bethune-Cookman by a score of 48-7. No real surprise there, right?
Yeah.
Because Bethune-Cookman was 1-1 going into that game. But yeah, so taking a look at this slate, I mean, can I be completely honest?
Be completely honest, Joe.
This slate is not as good as last week's.
No, it's not.
It's just not. There's not really any other way around it. I think going in is where's game day this week? In Gainesville, Florida for Tennessee, Florida?
No, it's Colorado State, I believe.
Colorado State.
Or it's in Boulder. Is the game? Is it in Boulder? I think it is. So that
I believe Colorado's at home.
Yeah, so it's in Boulder for Colorado State, Colorado.
I mean, that's going to be a. I think it'll be like a good. I think it'll be like.
Yeah. I think Colorado's going to smack them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The way Colorado's been playing.
And also, the coaches are being really dumb. I don't know if you saw, I think is it Jay Norvell?
The Colorado State head coach. He was trash talking
Deion. If you're a head coach, you have to just learn. Don't trash talk Deion.
No,
stop.
Don't.
All you're doing is giving that team more momentum and more like.
You're giving him more fuel.
You're giving him more fuel, and teams just keep doing it. It just keeps happening time after time. Nebraska did it. Now Colorado State's doing it.
It seems like everyone is doing it, and Sanders and the Buffaloes are going out and they're just like,
yes,
okay, cool.
Like, okay,
and they're
this
just like.
Gonna inspire us. He literally, the day after it came out, less than 24 hours after Norvell made those comments, Deion was talking to his team saying, now they made it personal. Now it's personal. Now we have to do this. Now we have to destroy them. We have to go in there and give them a good old smacking, the good Colorado way, because they made it personal.
Buffalo way.
The Buffalo way.
And look at, I'm seeing right now here on ESPN, Shadir Sanders, their quarterback, responding to Norvell's jab, quote, "You got to be a fool to do that."
Exactly, you do.
He's completely right.
Yes.
He is completely right.
It's ridiculous. If you want to beat Colorado, obviously you have to have a good football team. You have to play well. Just ignore everything. I know it's this whole like tornado of media coverage right now going around the team because Deion and Shador, Travis Hunter.
Circumstances around this team and coach Deion Sanders.
Yeah, but if you want to have a chance, just don't mention it. Just keep quiet and keep to yourselves. Game plan for this team and actually go out there and win the football game.
Yeah,
like don't try to win the game in the press conference.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Like if you're trash talking, it's like you said. If you're trash talking a team like this, a coach like this,
yes, you're signing your death sentence.
Smart people don't do that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Smart people don't trash talk Deion Sanders and Colorado.
It was a dumb quote, too. It was like, when I talk to adults, I take off my hat and glasses. It's like you're all football coaches.
Like what?
Like, relax, dog. You're not cool.
Just chill a little bit.
Like,
just chill.
Like, none of you guys wear suit and ties. Like, all you're wearing is, like, shorts. I think someone talked about this. But
No. Yeah, I saw. But it's just, I feel like for Colorado State, and they're 0-1. Keep that in mind too. They're 0-1. They lost their first game.
You have no room to talk.
Yeah, you have zero room to talk. And Colorado is obviously 2-0. They're ranked number 18 in the country.
Yeah.
But my opinion, I think you'll agree with me on this one, Quinn, is that Colorado's going to smack them.
Yep.
And one final thing. It's in Boulder, and we saw exactly how the
crowd was crazy.
How crazy that Colorado crowd can get.
Insane.
So Colorado should take care of business there. At least that's what we here at Sports Talk on Elm Street think.
That is what we think.
That is what we think. So let's keep going a little bit. So this is my most interesting game of the weekend is not going to be Tennessee and Florida because, frankly, I don't think Florida's that good.
Yeah.
And I think Tennessee is going to smack them.
It is in Florida. It is.
It is, and that crowd in Gainesville can get really, really crazy when they want to.
The Swamp?
Yeah, I think it's the Swamp. Yeah, I think it's the Swamp. But my most interesting game of the week is, I don't know if you thought about this one yet, but number 8 Washington against Michigan State in East Lansing. So this one is interesting to me for a couple reasons. The whole, I guess we said that we weren't going to talk about this, but I guess we can
it's fine.
Kind of gloss over it very briefly. The Mel Tucker situation.
Yeah.
He has been suspended indefinitely from his head coaching duties, and now Michigan State does not have their lead man on the sidelines.
Yep.
That being said, they are 2-0, and they honestly have not looked quite as bad as I thought they were going to look. I did not have high expectations for this team going into the season, is what I'm saying.
They haven't looked terrible, but they've also played Central Michigan and Richmond.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for Washington, I want to talk about the Huskies for a second. It all starts and ends, possibly, with quarterback Michael Penix Jr. and what he's been doing. Former Indiana Hoosier quarterback Michael Penix Jr. It's very bittersweet for us IU people seeing his success with Washington. But he has had an absolutely dominant, phenomenal start to the season. I mean, I'm in awe of what he's done so far. He had a fantastic year last year, but he's built so much on that this year. He's passed for, right now, it's 859 yards with 8 touchdowns. He threw his first interception this past weekend.
Yeah.
First of the year. And he's got a 91.7 QBR, which is 4th in the country, which is insane. I think, if he's not legitimately considered for the Heisman Trophy at the end of the season, something terrible has happened, I think.
Yeah. Because, he's going to put up crazy numbers in this offense.
Obviously, yeah.
It's ridiculous. I hesitate to look out for this Michigan State game only because I think that Washington might go into East Lansing. I believe it's in East Lansing.
It is in East Lansing.
In East Lansing. I think they might just walk into East Lansing and drop like
40-something points on
I think Penix might throw for 700 yards and they drop like 55 points. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. It genuinely would.
Really?
Maybe not 700.
Really?
But yeah, I think with Michigan State's defense and what we've seen in the past for Michigan State's defense, they have had, what was it, 2 years ago?
That is right. The
2 years ago, they had like a historically
uh,
awful secondary.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Penix goes in there and just puts up like a crazy game. I know it's being talked about a lot because these are 2 Power 5 teams.
Yeah.
Pac-12, Big Ten, Rose Bowl-esque. But I don't think this Michigan State team is going to be good enough to hang with them. I could be wrong. East Lansing, obviously.
That crowd can get really hype. It's a difficult place to play, like you said. And I think the Spartans may have something in quarterback Noah Kim, who he had a bit of a shaky start in week 1, but he rebounded in a big way in week 2. And I was impressed with some of the throws he was making. I think I'm high on the kid.
I'm just very interested to see how he'll do against a defense that isn't named Richmond or Central Michigan.
This game will tell us a lot about him.
It is a big test for Michigan State. This game will tell us whether Michigan State's an actual contender in the Big Ten and has a chance to take out teams like Ohio State, take out teams like Michigan, or if this is a Michigan State team that's going to get blown out again.
So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And you said Ohio State, and then this idea just popped into my head right as you said that.
What's your idea?
I want to talk to you about Ohio State because you're the Ohio State connoisseur, if you will.
If we have to, if we have to, I guess we'll talk about Ohio State.
But so their week 2 game, obviously, so they've named Kyle McCord starting quarterback going forward. Correct. Yeah. In week 2, he looked a lot better. To be fair, he was facing a much less. You know what? I was in the middle of that sentence, and then I realized what I was about to say. I was going to say, they faced a much less difficult opponent, but then is the gap between Indiana and
Youngstown State.
And Youngstown State? Yeah, Youngstown State. Is the gap between Indiana and Youngstown State really that large? Is it? I'm just being real here.
That's so mean. We're a Power 5 team. Okay, I mean, like, yeah, Indiana's not great. I don't think we're Youngstown State bad. Is that really what we're gonna say? Like, is that the level we've stooped to? Is we're Youngstown State?
I'm not saying
No,
we're
it's
Youngstown.
fine.
I know Indiana's obviously better than Youngstown State. There's no argument on that front. But I mean, Indiana is a bad football team.
Yeah, I know.
Youngstown State is a bad football team. But let's go back to the Buckeyes. McCord. What did you see out of him in this game, and how do you think he will carry that into week 3?
I didn't get to watch an entirety of the game. Obviously, I saw some highlights of it.
Right.
And I saw some of the throws McCord made. He didn't make a ton of throws. I mean, he was 14 for 20, but
that's still a pretty good completion percentage.
It was still a pretty good completion percentage, and some of those throws are very, very, very well made. Like some of them were fitting into tight windows. Mm-hmm. It gives me hope for Marvin Harrison because obviously after Indiana, I was like, this is not good. Our best receiver is not going to be able to get the ball because our quarterback can't throw it to him. But, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Ohio State's offense and how good they are. Mm. I don't know if you knew this, Joe, but Ohio State, after the first 2 weeks of the season, was leading the Big Ten in passing yards.
I did not know that.
Yes, they are leading the Big Ten in passing yards. So
That's got to be a good sign.
Obviously, it's because it's Ohio State. People are like, oh, my gosh, there's no good quarterback because they're not throwing for 750 yards a game and we're not putting up 70 points. But I don't think it's time to freak out, especially with the confidence McCord will now have knowing he's the guy. I think that'll help him. I really am looking forward to this Western Kentucky game that's on Saturday because I want to see McCord. I want to see McCord show out and show that he is him and solidify it. Because... look ahead, September 23rd, the best game, probably.
Notre Dame, right?
In my opinion, it's one of the top 5 games. Yeah, against Notre Dame. And in South Bend. One of the top 5 games of the non-conference slate for me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So that's going to be a super exciting game to watch. It's going to be on NBC. It's going to be exciting. Mm-hmm. Oh, I want
to say one thing about this Week 3 game for the Buckeyes and for Western Kentucky specifically. Do you remember last year when Western Kentucky played Indiana?
Yeah, and Indiana had that beautiful kick to win the game.
Oh, yeah, they had a beautiful kick. Indiana won the game. But call me insane. Call me crazy. I know you will. This quarterback, Austin Reed, for the Hilltoppers, he's thrown for 589 yards and 6 touchdowns with no interceptions so far this year. He's had a really, really nice start to the year. And when I saw him play in person when I went to the IU game last year, he looked really good. He looked really, really good. I like him, and I think what I'm saying is he and this team, I don't think they're not a pushover.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not a pushover. The Buckeyes are going to have to...
It'll be a test for sure.
Yeah, it will be a test. I think it's going to be a test.
He threw for 40 touchdowns yesterday. What?
That was the
complete wrong word. That was the complete wrong word. Last year I meant yesterday. That would be crazy. He just had
we would be seeing nothing but highlights of him on every social media platform.
Thursday night under the lights, and he's just 40 touchdowns. That'd be insane. I would love watching that. That would be beautiful. No, not yesterday. Last year he threw for 40 touchdowns. So this is not a guy where it's like, oh, it's Western Kentucky. I feel like this is a one of those. Give it a year, give it 2 years. He's going to be drafted in the 4th, 5th round.
That's what I said.
He was backup quarterback in the NFL.
He looked like he could be
or a guy that
an NFL player,
or a guy that could transfer out this year. I mean,
and go to a bigger Power 5 school.
Wouldn't be surprised. So I'm looking forward because the talk was, Ohio State's defense is gonna need to carry them this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily true at this point because I think the offense will start to click. But,
yeah, I agree. They already started to click in a way against Youngstown State, and I think that should continue.
Yeah.
Should.
But this Western Kentucky offense might be the best offense Ohio State has played this year.
I mean, seriously.
And I'm not gonna say they're the best team. They might be, but I think Indiana had a pretty solid defense, and I think that's gonna be Indiana's main. Touch on Ohio State defense carries. That's how it's going to be for Indiana. If Indiana wants to win games,
that's Indiana's main calling card.
They're going to have to. They're going to have to keep their opponents to very few scores.
Yeah.
But in terms of the offense, I don't think Indiana's offense was good at all.
No,
and obviously they're going against Ohio State. They look pretty good against Indiana State. We didn't talk about that too much, but
yeah. Well, we can talk about that a little bit more in a second. I want to I want to talk about that, and then I want to
Get into that.
preview the Louisville game. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And we can get in. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, this is no pushover game for the Buckeyes, and I think Austin Reed. I'm excited to see for him both like in this game and like beyond whatever happens next for him. I want to kind of like he's a guy I'm keeping my eye on. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Fair.
Yeah. I think he's a really really good player. At least when I watched him play, he played really well against the Hoosiers, and I think it'll be interesting to see how he does against a defense. The
Caliber.
a defense of the caliber that the Buckeyes have.
Yeah.
I don't know if that
makes sense.
made sense
I
at
think
all.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's pretend it made sense.
Okay. Let's go.
We can edit it or something. Anyway, so let's talk about Indiana for a little bit here. Obviously, last week coming off that big win over Indiana State, which is something that I think we really wanted to see really badly after the way that Ohio State game went. It's like we definitely had a chance to take that game right up until about the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But I mean, the big news for the Hoosiers obviously is they officially named Taven Jackson their starting quarterback, and he looked. I thought he looked good against Indiana State.
I didn't think he looked bad. Yeah.
I don't think he looked bad at all. Obviously the best player on the field was Jalen Lucas, running for 2 touchdowns and making plays all over the field with his legs. And listen, it's Indiana State. The Hoosiers took care of business. I don't really think there's much more to say than that.
Yeah.
But going into week 3, this is where things get much more interesting. The Hoosiers taking on the Louisville Cardinals at Lucas Oil Stadium up in Indianapolis.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Neutral game. Well,
Yeah.
Neutral site is a stretch. I don't know if it's a neutral site. Louisville's not too far.
We're not like. I think there will be more Indiana fans there than Louisville fans.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because it's so much closer.
Yeah.
And I know a handful of guys, students who are going to be making the drive up there, which is.
I will not be.
I will not be either.
Yeah.
But it's going to be much more interesting, I think, than the Indiana State game was. My question for you is, Quinn, what are you looking for the Hoosiers what do they need to do in order to pick up a win that I think they really need if they want to establish themselves as like not the worst team in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
What do you think the recipe for success is? And how does it involve Jalen Lucas? It involves Jalen Lucas.
So you're asking me, how do they win and why is it Jalen Lucas?
Yeah, basically.
I think we talked about it a little bit last week. For me, the key to this Indiana offense, at least, and I don't know about the defense, and I mean, I think that's going to be a big part of this game because Louisville's offense has looked good so far. They put up quite a few points this year. I think stopping Louisville and holding them to I'll say under 25 points. I think if they are able to hold them to under 25 points, Indiana has a chance at winning this game. If not, I don't think Indiana's going to win. I think the key on the offense is getting yourself another weapon, whether that's Taven Jackson's legs, whether that's...
I think that's something that they need to bring more of into the game plan.
Yeah.
Jackson's scrambling ability.
Whether that's the connection to Cam Camper and Taven Jackson or a different receiver. There needs to be something that's not Jalen Lucas running with the ball or just throw it up to Jalen Lucas.
It's like we said. Defenses are going to pick up on that.
Yeah.
If they just run everything through Lucas, they're going to pick up on that.
Yeah, so I mean that's the key for me. I am interested in taking your take on something a little bit outside of just the game itself.
Yeah.
Indiana, it was in the news a little bit. They've canceled their series with Louisville. This doesn't.
Yeah, that was weird.
How do you feel about that? Because for me, I don't like the move. Well, I don't mind the move, but I also think that it just shows a lack of confidence.
I kind of agree with that. It's weird because Louisville is one of the premier teams on your non-conference slate for a team like the Hoosiers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For the audience, by the way, there was a 3-game series. It was I believe it was neutral site and then home and away.
Yeah.
I think. And then Indiana, they just recently,
boom, they just canceled it.
Within the last week, they said, we're not going to play other games.
Yeah, we're not going to play that anymore.
And I think the hope is for the Hoosiers, correct me if I'm wrong, is to schedule some FCS teams.
I'm like, what?
The plan is to put in some worse teams. You rack up your wins, hopefully make it to a bowl game and just kind of build up from there. But I don't necessarily know if I love the move of just saying, hey, we're just going to schedule worse teams so that we can squeak into a bowl game.
It's like you said, that to me, just says, "Oh, we're not confident that we are going to win against a team like Louisville."
And you're doing it going into the week. You're not waiting until after the game.
You don't know. You're going into the. You're doing it going into the weekend of the game, like you said. Like I imagine, like Louisville's looking at this and they're like, "Huh?"
They're like, "Oh, easy. Okay, they're
cool.
They're afraid to play us.
They're afraid. Yeah, they're saying they're afraid to play us.
Yeah,
and this is like this weekend is like probably going to be the last time this happens for the foreseeable future. And it's like you said, I agree with you. It makes me think that IU just doesn't have a ton of confidence when they're playing Louisville or a team like Louisville. Now, like, why else would you cancel that series and schedule a little clump of games against lesser FCS opponents? Why else would you do that intentionally? And the timing, like you said, is weird. Right before they play Louisville. What?
Yeah.
It's I think it's a strange situation all around.
Know if it's just not a great look for the
program, it's not a great
because
look.
Because everyone knows what they're doing. It's not like a secret. It's like, oh, you're just trying to squeak into a bowl game because you're not good enough to make a bowl game while playing teams like Louisville. Let's not like make stuff up. Louisville's not like a great ACC team. They're not a great ACC
team. I don't think they're a bad team.
They're not a bad team, but it's not like you're going against Alabama and it's like, oh, well, it's a guaranteed loss. Like it's not. It's a Power 5 team, but Indiana should have a chance against them. I mean, I don't think they don't have a chance going into this weekend. It's only a 10-point spread.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's a good look for the program as a whole to cancel those games.
So let's first off give me your score prediction, and then we will jump into NFL a little bit. Yes.
Yeah.
Give me your score prediction. Who wins? And we could talk a little bit about why, I guess.
The Louisville game?
Yes. Indiana versus Louisville. Who takes it? And
I'm going to say Louisville takes it. I'm going to say the score is going to be I'm going to say 30-17 or 30-20. I don't think it's going to be that close. I mean, I think it could be a game like Ohio State where Indiana hangs around, and I think Indiana will have a little bit more on the offensive side compared to that Ohio State game. I just don't think that the offense has the ability to put up points against a team that's not Indiana State.
I agree.
I think that's going to be what we're going to see throughout the year. And then the Big Ten play is that there might be games where the defense does their job and then the offense can squeak out a win, like 20-something points. But I think if you're going against Louisville, a team that has a better offense, I think it's just going to kind of deplete. Once they keep scoring, it's like, oh, well, we can't keep up with them. So I don't think Indiana comes out to win. So I'm going to say 30-17. I'm going to stick with that. How about you?
I think I'm like pretty much right on board with where you are. I think Louisville, I'm going to say 34-16.
Okay.
Louisville. I think that Louisville is able to force the Hoosiers into some turnovers, and they take advantage of that with some shorter-ish fields, you know. I don't know if Taven Jackson is going to play particularly well against a defense like this. That's not Indiana State. I mean, he didn't look good at all against Ohio State, and their defense is amazing. Louisville's defense is not on par with the Buckeyes, but they are, like I said, they're no pushover whatsoever. And they are much better than Indiana State on both sides of the ball. And I don't know if Jackson will be able to replicate what he did against the Sycamores in this game. Frankly, I don't think he will. And I think Louisville, they have quarterback Jake Plummer, who I think he's throwing 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, which is whatever.
Yeah.
I think he has a big game. I think Plummer has a big game. I think he throws 3 touchdowns against this Indiana defense.
Okay.
Maybe that's bold. Maybe that's a little bit of bold.
I don't know if that's that bold to talk about, if I'm being honest.
I think Plummer has a big day, and Louisville wins it relatively easily.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that's horrible to say.
But that game is tomorrow. At 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
Definitely going to watch it. Not going to drive up there, obviously.
We will watch it.
We will, yeah, definitely watch it. Yeah. Maybe you can come over or something. We could watch it on the big TV in my apartment.
We could make that work.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
Anyway,
let's talk about a little NFL. Maybe we just go talk about what happened most recently in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you'd be, of course.
Yeah, we can take the next maybe 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
I am And of course, Thursday Night Football happened last night.
Give
And
him
as
the-
you
give him
can
the- give him the
see,
rundown.
as you can see,
Yep.
wearing my Birds
that.
hat in honor of Victory Friday. Oh yeah, good
There
one.
you go.
Good stuff.
There you go. He's big Eagles guy.
Big Eagles guy up in here. Big Eagles guy up in here. And for everyone who's been like with us for the past year, I've already explained like why I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm from Texas. I don't really want to talk about that right now, so we're not going to.
Yeah.
But Eagles coming off a 34-28 win. I really, in my opinion, I don't think this game was as close as the final score indicated because the Vikings, they put up a couple garbage time touchdowns. Maybe, let me back up, maybe only one garbage time touchdown.
Yeah.
I think the game was effectively over when it was 34-21 with about 5-ish minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think the game was closer than a lot of people thought because the way the game was going, and I think the announcers, I think I heard Kirk Herbstreit, who was on the call, talk about this. It was like you're sitting there and it feels like the Eagles were dominating the game just because of the way they were playing, and we talked about that a little bit in terms of the game plan. But the Vikings, you look up and the Vikings were one score away. Like it wasn't like it was out of reach for that long. But I do think 28-34, it makes it look a lot closer than it was because the Eagles were dominating that game. If you want to talk about that offense and the game plan there, I mean, you can talk about it.
As an Eagles fan, I'm like I'm conflicted because in the first quarter, our offense looked not good. They did not look good. They looked out of sync. They looked kind of how they looked last week against New England. From the second quarter onwards, something changed. And I think that something was getting involved in the run game.
It was so good to watch. It was honestly so pleasant to watch. And I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm not an Eagles fan at all. But seeing a team, and this happens so many times in the NFL and in college football, where something is working for your team, yet they go away from it.
Yeah, why?
If something's working, keep with it.
Yeah.
If you're running the ball and you're getting 7 yards every play, why are you going to stop running the ball? Keep running it. And finally, when a team realizes that and actually does it, it was so fun to watch. Because it's like you're sitting there and it's like DeAndre Swift, who's former Lion, so I'm a little bit biased. I like him. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
He just 7 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 6
every
yards.
time. They could not stop the run.
Why would you at that point just take a deep shot? Like, I understand that the running game opens up the passing game.
Yeah.
But if they're not stopping the running game at all, just keep running the ball, chewing up clock, keeping the other team's offense off the field. Like, it was beautiful football to watch. And I'm so thankful that the Eagles weren't just sitting there like, hey, the run game worked for 3 plays. Let's just throw a Hail Mary now. Like, because sometimes you'll see that happen in college football and NFL, and it's like, stick with the thing that's working. There's no point changing it up. I mean, 3 yards in a cloud of dust football. Woody Hayes out in there, but like
Woody Hayes. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, no, it was good to see, and I just enjoyed watching Swift tear up in the offensive line of the Eagles as a whole.
It's amazing.
Dominate. And like, if this offense, because what I think was happening in that first quarter and in the Patriots game is that the Eagles, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you watched it a little bit more than me. The Eagles were forcing the pass. They were forcing the pass. I mean, last year we have really good receivers, and yes, you do have good receivers, but don't forget that the bread and butter of this team is the offensive line.
They are a running football team, first and foremost. They are a running football team, and I feel like there aren't enough people who like fully appreciate that, you know what I mean? And I have to give... I know he's been really maligned over the first couple weeks of the season, but I have to give new offensive coordinator Brian Johnson credit. He saw that the run was working and he stuck with it. And I think I know all of the Eagles fans out there, I don't know if they agree with me when I'm saying this. I think he's learning. I really think he's learning. Keep in mind, he has to replace Shane Steichen, who is now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And he is having to learn he was the quarterback's coach formerly. He only worked with the quarterbacks and he worked with Jalen Hurts. Now, what he has to do is he has to learn the entire offense, not just the quarterbacks, the entire offense. That's hard to do.
No, it is, for sure.
I feel like you got to, like, Eagles fans are in general they're quick to turn on you, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I saw them, it was like the first quarter.
They were booing. They were booing in the first quarter. I'm like, what are y'all doing, bro?
It's like, well, I mean, what have you done for me recently?
Yeah, it's like, that's exactly what Philly is, I feel like. It's what have you done for me lately kind of fan base.
Yeah.
I give Brian Johnson props. I think he's learning how to be a good offensive coordinator and work with this system, you know? And I think Hurts is like, I don't know. I'm a little conflicted on Hurts. He threw that terrible interception to start, and then
that was weird.
It was weird. It was very uncharacteristic of him.
It was very uncharacteristic. It's just like kind of a boneheaded bet. Like it's just like why
he just threw in the double coverage.
Yeah,
and he had AJ Brown open down the field a little bit further downfield, and he's chucking double coverage to Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
But I think he rebounded a big way. He played much better in the second quarter and in the second half. He played much better.
For sure.
I think part of it is just like he's having to get used to a new offensive coordinator. I think that's a big part of it. I think this offense is still trying to kind of shake off the rust a little bit.
Yeah.
It helps that they'll maybe have I think they did shake it off in a big way in the second half. I mean, they looked a lot more like the 2022 Eagles in that second half of that game, I think. So now for Philly, they're going into this little mini bye week because they have Monday night next week on the road in Tampa Bay, which is going to be kind of tough. I'm not going to lie, because Tampa Bay did not look half bad in week one.
They did not.
So that's where Philadelphia stands, and there's a lot that this team has to work on, particularly I think on the defensive end. They need to get healthy. James Bradbury was out. Reed Blankenship was out. N'Kobe Dean is on IR, which is not good, and Kenneth Gainwell on offense, he was out too, although DeAndre Swift more than made up for his absence.
Oh, for sure.
I think
career high rushing yards for DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I think DeAndre Swift. I mean, you guys, the coaching staff, I think has to say DeAndre Swift is this team's best running back.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a bad situation because Kenneth Gainwell, I mean, obviously not a bad situation, right? It's an embarrassment of riches, you could say. But having Gainwell come back from injury, it's always rough when it's like you're injured and then a guy comes in and
just like pops off like Swift did.
Just does so well. Like, and now Kenneth Gainwell, obviously, he has something to prove, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has a game in the future where he goes off and teams are going to be game planning around Swift and not Gainwell. But
yeah,
it's just rough. I'm as an outsider looking in for a guy like Gainwell coming in.
And I think it's interesting because I think Gainwell's a bit more of a threat in the passing game. Frankly, I think Swift and Gainwell can both do that well. I've seen more of Gainwell doing it just because he's been on the team for a longer amount of time.
Which that doesn't necessarily hurt if you can have like a third down back
not at all.
And Gainwell and then Swift as your main guy. And it could be a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, and then maybe you could like sprinkle Rashad Penny in there or something. Or I'm not even sure if the coaching staff knows he exists.
Yeah, because he never even touches the ball.
No, he touched it like solid, maybe 2 or 3 times.
He's a very, very solid running back. Yeah. They're just like, hey, we're not going to.
He had some moments where he was exceptional with the Seahawks. He just couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
But listen, there's a lot that the team needs to work on, but the point is the Eagles are 2-0. And that's an accomplishment, I think, in and of itself, based on, especially how this team played in week 1.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. But that's where the Eagles stand. And for the Vikings, they're 0-2. They've dug themselves a hole.
Yeah.
And it's going to be...
Makes me look... I'm happy as a Lions fan looking at the Vikings because I'm sitting here looking around the division like, I think the Packers might be the only other team in this division that's capable of winning a football game.
Mm-hmm. So the Bears did not look convincing at all.
I mean, the Vikings didn't look terrible.
I mean, Kirk threw for 4 touchdowns.
If it wasn't for all of the turnovers, they might have had a chance of winning this
game. Yeah.
I mean, Kirk Cousins had like 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like that's not bad.
They fumbled, I think, 4 times.
Yeah,
4 times in the game. Yeah.
So like, I don't think the Vikings are that horrible. The Bears. We'll see.
I am now on board with the Justin Fields sucks train.
Oh man.
Yeah, sorry, but he was not. I was like flipping. I was flipping back and forth between the Eagles game and that Packers Bears game in week 1. He didn't look.
I will keep being a Justin Fields protector even if he throws for 18 interceptions in one game.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah.
So let me ask one more question just to wrap up here.
Let's finish it up.
Hit me. This upcoming Sunday for week 2, what is the matchup that you were most looking forward to watching? And don't say the Lions.
Well,
you can say the Lions if you want.
I won't say the Lions. I won't say the Lions. Looking for week 2. I don't know why I'm doing an accent. Sorry.
That's weird.
Yeah.
What was that about?
let's see. Hold on. I haven't really given much thought to the slate, so I'm looking at it. I'll give you guys my thought process here. I saw the Rams 49ers because they're both
because the Rams looked.
They're both teams that have a win, but I think the 49ers might blow them out of the water.
I don't know. The Rams looked a lot better than I thought they would against the Seahawks.
I see the one that I'm going to go with. Jacksonville and Kansas City.
Ooh,
that's a great game.
That's going to be great in Jacksonville.
It's a very good game. I mean, I think that's a very good game. So I'm excited. I'm interested to see how this Chiefs team is going to perform having Travis Kelce.
Yeah, he should be playing. I think
he should be playing. Just how much is Travis Kelce going to have a role in this offense? Like, obviously we know he's the main target, but like, how much is it going to be every single play that Travis Kelce gets the ball? Because based off of last week, it might look like that.
Yeah,
like it genuinely. Mahomes might have PTSD from having to throw to Kadarius Toney, and he might only target Travis Kelce.
I don't think that Kadarius Toney's going to play like he played. Like
I can't imagine.
Yeah, like
I can't imagine.
It's inconceivable, right? For him to play like that, for him to play like that 2 weeks in a row. But I mean, I don't think the Chiefs really have a true number one receiver now that. Was Juju Smith-Schuster even a number one receiver? No, probably not. No. I mean, Smith-Schuster's in New England now, but they don't really have a number one receiver. But they have a lot of guys who can make plays, and they have established a connection with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
which is a great thing. And Mahomes and head coach Andy Reid have proven that kind of like committee thing that they've had over the past couple of years can work. Now
they can win Super Bowls.
Yeah, like they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. And they've proven that without a true number one receiver, you can still win Super Bowls. Yeah. So, but that is going to be that's going to be interesting. It's setting up to be a fantastic weekend for football.
Fantastic weekend of sports.
Fantastic weekend of sports.
And we'll be recapping it.
Yeah,
of course,
we will be recapping it. I did the one shot thing this time.
Great.
Yay!
Yes.
But that's going to be about it for today.
Yeah.
We were kind of, so in terms of, for those of you asking, where's the first episode?
Oh, yeah. You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
take it.
We were still like working out, getting it put up on Spotify, getting it all this up. So I think what we're going to end up doing is either later today, but more likely on Saturday.
Yeah.
Just drop them both at the same time because obviously we recorded it. We don't want it to just go to waste. So we still want to put it up there. It'll be a little bit dated because it'll be stuff talking about the war, but you could go back, look at our predictions, see how wrong we were. Or how correct we were because I'm sure
because I don't even like.
I'm sure we got something right.
Yeah, we probably got something right.
Yeah, chances are. So we'll just drop them at the same time, and then it'll be on Spotify. I mean, there'll be a link for it that we'll post on our social medias.
Yeah.
And on like Sports Talk on Elm Street on Instagram,
Twitter, X, whatever.
I'll be working on getting the YouTube account started.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna have a new logo, and then if you go to Spotify, I looked at it the other day. So you're gonna go through like I think it's like it's like Indiana Student Media like podcast. There's like a major thing, and then inside of that there's the individual shows. So that'll be like us.
Right.
So. We'll get the links out there. You will be able to see the podcast.
Yeah.
This one will be out in a much more timely fashion.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it will be in a much more timely fashion going forward because this first episode we were still figuring out how to do everything.
Yeah, and it should in the future. Yeah, within a day, I would say.
Yeah,
probably gonna
couple days at the most. I think.
Probably Saturday they're gonna mainly be coming out.
That's perfect. Yeah, that is perfect. So yeah, that's our show. We got a lot of big things coming soon. Yep. So just stay tuned and be on the lookout for episode 3. We will be back soon.